Tonight, a shift in Minneapolis. After weeks of clashes between federal agents and residents, the Trump administration signals a potential pullback.
When the violence decreases, we can draw down those resources.
Plus, what we know about Alex Preddy's death and where the investigation stands.
Plus inflation, layoffs, and a new initiative from the White House. A look at the American economy and how to protect your wallet.
Plus, tensions boil in the Middle East as the United States weighs another strike on Iran.
Plus, changing lives one wheelchair at a time. The faith-driven mission putting dignity back into daily life. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
A change in command and a potential federal drawdown as the Trump White House switches gears in Minnesota. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And good evening in Washington. I'm Jenna Browder. Well, after weeks of intense and deadly conflicts between protesters and immigration officials, the Trump administration is laying out the framework for future operations in the state. Federal immigration enforcement is now under new leadership in Minnesota. The president's border czar, Tom Homan, is taking charge there, vowing to fix the problem.
During a press briefing earlier today, Homan said he's there to find solutions and to regain law and order. While he backed the efforts of federal agents deployed to the state, he said he's working with state and local officials on a plan to scale back the current troop deployment. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke has the story.
Give us access to the illegal alien public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail. More agents in the jail means less agents in the street. This is common sense cooperation that allows us to draw down on the number of people we have here.
Homan acknowledged ICE operations in Minnesota have not been handled perfectly.
Anything can be improved on, and what we've been working on is making this operation safer, more efficient, by the book. The mission is going to improve because of the changes we're making internally.
Meanwhile, the Homeland Security Department reports the 2 Border Patrol agents involved in the shooting death of ICU nurse Alex Preddy are now on administrative leave. Newly released video shows Preddy in a confrontation with ICE agents 11 days before the fatal shooting. It's unclear what happened before the moments captured on camera, although the video shows Preddy yelling obscenities at agents and kicking out a taillight on their vehicle. Agents then exit the vehicle and wrestle him to the ground before releasing him, a gun visible in his waistband. Investigations into Preddy's death are ongoing. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty says she's moving forward with a local investigation after being excluded from the federal probe.
We have not made a decision about whether charges are appropriate because we want to make sure we have the evidence.
Attorney General Pam Bondi is also in Minnesota this week. Posting on social media, she announced that 16 protesters have been arrested for allegedly assaulting federal law enforcement, adding more arrests are expected. As ICE operations continue, several federal judges are now blocking specific actions by the Trump administration. One Minnesota detainee released after a judge ordered ICE Director Todd Lyons to appear in court and testify. Another judge blocked the deportation of a Minnesota father and son whose attorney says they entered the U.S. legally and are awaiting an asylum hearing. Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro recently met with the family.
His father said that Liam has been sleeping a lot, that he's been asking about his family, his mom, and his classmates, and saying that he wants to go be back in school.
That was CBN's Caitlin Burke reporting. Well, meanwhile, President Trump and Democrats reportedly are pushing through a stalemate to avoid another government shutdown, despite Senate Democrats voting earlier today to block funding for the Department of Homeland Security. They're demanding ICE policy changes before passing any legislation to fund DHS. Those demands include requiring ICE agents to wear body cameras and remove face coverings. The president signaled optimism in a cabinet meeting earlier today, saying bipartisan efforts to resolve the standoff are underway. 8 Republicans joined all Democrats in that vote to kill legislation funding Homeland Security, along with several other agencies.
Well, to the dismay of President Trump, the Federal Reserve is planning to hold off on interest rate cuts once again, even with stubborn inflation rates. The Fed made the decision citing a stabilizing labor market.
Stephen Cates joins us now. He's a financial analyst with Bankrate.com. Stephen, welcome. So first off, what does the decision by the Fed say about the strength of the economy? And moreover, how does that translate for consumers in the near term?
So the Fed was widely expected to pause the rate cutting cycle in January. So that really didn't come as a surprise. What I think was surprising was in the press conference, Jerome Powell, the chair, spoke rather confidently about the stability of the U.S. economy, saying that we're on firm footing and on a solid pace. Those are words that he's not used in many months. So that's encouraging for consumers who, up until this point, have been concerned about the labor market, and rightly so. We've seen hiring be very weak. We've seen job gains be very slow. Now, there's also inflation on the other side. And in a way, this signals that the Fed is trying to make a measured determination of how they want to approach the balance of risk between supporting the labor market and trying to fight inflation. And for the moment, they're going to wait and see whether the fight for inflation may become the bigger risk.
Yeah, speaking of the labor market, Amazon is cutting some 16,000 jobs, much of it tied to AI and efficiency. Stephen, for employees, watching these layoffs, is this a warning sign for similar jobs across the economy, or is this mostly just about Amazon and doing some restructuring?
Well, I think that this is probably mostly about Amazon. Now, there certainly have been other layoffs from Amazon, from others. And I hope we can actually spend a minute on this, because I do think that this is important to understand within the context of the national labor market. U.S. sentiment today is poor. We know this from various measurements. People are frankly anxious. They're frustrated. One of the reasons that when people hear numbers like this, 16,000 layoffs, which follows the 14,000 from Amazon back in October, when you don't have context of what that means, it can make you feel like the sky is falling, and that's a natural feeling. But I don't want to minimize the experience of these people who are getting laid off or have been laid off at all, because that's difficult. But from an economic standpoint, it's important to know with context that every month of every year, it's normal for the U.S. economy to have between 1.6 and 1.8 million layoffs every month of every year. And the long-term average over the last 25 years has been about 1.9 million layoffs every month of every year. So this is, from an economic standpoint, the national U.S. economy, a drop in the bucket. It's not indicative of a trend towards a failing labor market. This is completely normal, but it certainly makes headlines.
I appreciate the sensitivity that you said for those who have been laid off, but in the context of the greater economy, that is good to know. The president held a major event Wednesday to boast about what he calls Trump accounts. And my question to you is, how do these so-called Trump accounts actually work, and how are they different from savings options already available to parents, whether it's 529 plans or custodial accounts?
So I am a bit of a nerd about sort of financial planning opportunities, and I'm very excited about what these are. But there are certainly pros and cons to this account when you compare it to others. And it's going to really depend on what your goals are for the savings you want to make for your child. One of the biggest benefits of these Trump accounts is going to be that if you have a child born between 2025 and 2028, you're going to get a deposit from the government. And free money is free money. I encourage you to take it. You may also have the opportunity to get charitable donations from certain individuals like Michael Dell and his wife, Ray Dalio, in Connecticut, as well as yet to be named charities who may come out of the woodwork. Employers, similarly, may make contributions or match family contributions. So that kind of money is going to be, if you think about the growth it could have in the stock market over multiple decades, a transformative experience for today's children. But for parents who may be trying to decide, where do you put, my limited dollars, you have to decide, again, what's going to be most useful. If you have education as one of your primary goals, a 529 may be better. It is tax deferred, and so is this Trump account, but the withdrawals from the Trump account are not tax-free for education expenses. There's going to be a lot more details that are going to come out as this becomes available over the next 4 to 6 months or so, and these become able to be funded in July, about what this can do for families and for children in comparison to some of these other accounts.
Yeah, it's a big deal for families who maybe are not invested right now, and you know, changing future generations' financial status. All right, Stephen Cates with Bankrate.com. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Stephen. Coming up, blinding snow and sub-zero temperatures. The deadly fallout from the massive snowstorm and blanketed the United States. Next.
Welcome back. Fulton County, Georgia officials say their 2020 election results were fair, accurate, and that every legal vote was counted. It comes in response to an FBI raid Wednesday seeking ballots from the 2020 presidential election. According to the search warrant, the FBI is investigating potential violations of federal laws relating to defrauding voters. After losing Georgia, President Trump demanded state officials find votes to change the outcome of the election. He has said for years it was rigged. Well, how about this winter weather? Yeah. We're seeing it here in D.C. too. It could be days, though, in the South before power is restored to some areas.
Yes, and worse yet, Jenna, forecasters warn another one is on the way.
Sitting clear.
That's a common sound in places like Nashville, where thousands of people don't have electricity after trees took down power lines. In hard-hit Mississippi, a daring lineman, in an extreme balancing act, worked to restore high-voltage transmission lines from a helicopter. People in the cold are going to extreme lengths to stay warm.
Yeah, I've been able to use my gas stove, you know, even though it's electric, so they give us a little more heat, too.
Mississippi and Tennessee have called up hundreds of National Guard to help stranded drivers and clear debris. A second wave is expected to slam the East Coast this weekend. Last week's storm is being blamed for at least 70 deaths.
Coming up, one man's daring tale of survival under the Maduro regime and his renewed hope for the future of Venezuela.
Welcome back. President Trump is weighing a major strike on Iran after talks over the regime's nuclear program and ballistic missiles failed to produce a breakthrough.
Tehran is vowing an immediate response to any U.S. military action, with a top Iranian official warning Israel could be targeted in a strike. The U.S. is also stepping up its military posture in the region, deploying additional warships and defensive assets. Meanwhile, the European Union is taking a major step against Iran, officially listing its Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization in the aftermath of a bloody crackdown on nationwide protests. Activists say the crackdown has seen more than 6,000 people killed. Other estimates, though, put that number as high as 30,000.
Well, closer to home, it's been nearly 1 month since the arrest of former Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. For Venezuelans who suffered under his regime, his fall from power is nothing short of a miracle.
Wendy Griffith spoke with one man who left Venezuela years ago and escaped to America. Today, he is celebrating with his countrymen.
35-year-old Francisco Gil of Norfolk, Virginia, fled Venezuela in 2017. His nightmare began when soldiers kidnapped him and two cousins at a military checkpoint and held them for ransom.
They pointed a gun on my face and they told me to get out of the car. When I did, and I thought they were gonna ask me, hey, where's your papers? Can I have your license? But he said to me, okay, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna go on the passenger seat. Another officer came down, put a gun right here, my neck, and told me, you're gonna unlock your phone, you're gonna give me that phone, and then you have 5 minutes to make a call to find somebody that can save your life.
The soldiers drove them for about 2 hours to an abandoned house in the country and locked them in a bathroom.
A lot of things happen in your mind at that point, right? All this hard work for what, right? Like all this life for what?
Fortunately, Francisco was able to make the call that saved their lives.
And they confirmed the transfer was sent.
After that, Francisco knew staying in Venezuela could no longer be an option. He escaped and headed to the U.S. He joined his fiancée, now wife Kimberly, in Virginia, got a job at Home Depot, and they're raising 2 young daughters. When he and Kimberly, who's from Colombia, heard about Maduro's capture, they thought they were dreaming.
And then it was just a huge scream in my house. I was like, Kim. And she was like, what? Because I never screamed like, they got him. And I was like, they got what? Who? What's going on? Like, Maduro, they got him. I was like, no way. And the joy in this house was amazing, but I was still like in shock. It was like, is this really happening?
Since then, thousands of Venezuelans have been celebrating Maduro's overthrow and what this might mean for other socialist and communist nations. Reverend Samuel Rodriguez hopes this is just the beginning.
The communistic, socialistic worldview is completely counterintuitive to our Judeo-Christian value system. It believes that government is God. Government is God. So I am glad it's the beginning, but not the end. I hope Cuba, Nicaragua, and even Brazil to a great degree receive the proverbial wake-up call as it pertains to what just took place in Venezuela.
He also sees it as resulting in more freedom to preach the gospel.
I'm a pastor. I want to see people come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. When you have a government that is threatening and oppressing and imprisoning those that are against their political policies and so forth, we are all at peril, right? So it means freedom to preach, freedom to live, freedom to prosper, freedom to transfer to your children and your children's children what you worked hard for. That's what it means, really. It's freedom across the board.
Some Latino Christian leaders, however, feel it's too soon to celebrate until it's clear how the vacuum, now being filled by interim leader Delcy Rodriguez, will ultimately play out.
I spoke to several pastors in Maracaibo and Caracas this week that there were gangs trying to intimidate pro-democracy forces. So there's a national call for prayer. Many people did not go to church on Sunday. There were the cancellation of services this past Sunday out of abundance of caution. But at the same time, there's expectation that Venezuela will be able to determine its own future, that self-determination and democracy will return to Venezuela. And the people in the diaspora are asking, what does this mean for us? We've been here 10 years, 15 years. The Chavez-Maduro regime has been in power for over 26 years, and over 8 million people have left the country, many of them Pentecostals and evangelicals. Does this mean we'll return?
As for Francisco, he has no plans to return to his home country.
So are you living the so-called American dream now?
You see the white fence right there? I couldn't even imagine having a beautiful home like the way I have. Yes, it's a change of work, change of everything, change of language, cultures, food, name it.
The biggest change for him, though, happened during the kidnapping.
When I was there in the bathroom, I was praying, I was like, Lord, this cannot be how my story ends. I cannot be just about to be with the love of my life, and this is how I'm gonna end. And I remember that God told me in that moment, it's not what is going on to you, kid. It's what's gonna happen. So just be tight, be straight. Don't show that you're weak right now. And from that moment, something really deep changed in me. I don't care about money. I don't care about wealth. I don't care about status. I don't care about anything of that.
For now, Francisco says he's happy seeing his country heading in the right direction.
And I pray for the resolution of this conflict, not only for me, for Nicaragua, for Cuba, for all the countries that are being down in this socialism. My prayer is for the new generations to have peace. For the first time in many decades, I think that we are at a point that we can reach that.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Thank you, Wendy. Coming up, wheelchairs, prayers, and second chances. How two ministries are transforming lives in more than 90 countries.
Welcome back. Around the world, some 80 million people are in need of a wheelchair. But due to a lack of resources, many are left to crawl or to be carried by others. Others stay hidden away.
Now, two faith-based ministries are working to change that by delivering the gift of mobility and the good news of the gospel to those who need it most. Here's CBN's Brody Carter with a story.
In many parts of the world, a wheelchair can mean the difference between a life in the dirt and a life with dignity.
We feel motivated by Jesus to do this work. In a way, it's sort of an homage to all of the things that Jesus did when he was here, which is serving the most marginalized. The Bible says the least of these.
That's the heartbeat behind Free Wheelchair Mission, a ministry built on a simple design and relentless faith. Each chair provided is built to last, made for rough terrain to those like DeWitt in Ethiopia or Linda in Guatemala. The gift offers newfound freedom, a chance to rejoin their community, and a tangible sign that God has not forgotten them.
When I bend down and I give out a wheelchair, and that person is praying for me, and I think when I go there that I'm going to be telling them about Jesus, and they're actually showing me who Jesus is.
That mission begins at their Southern California headquarters and spreads across 95 countries with more than 1.5 million wheelchairs delivered. Joining them in answering this call is Johnny and Friends, which refurbishes chairs through its Wheels for the World program.
And we have 12 prisons throughout the United States that recondition those as a part of our ministry. We get all the parts together, we do the training, and these prisoners, who are often recommended by chaplains, work in a Johnny Wheelchair Restoration Center in 12 prisons throughout the U.S.
President Sean Thornton says each reconditioned set of wheels is only the beginning. The ministry also hosts family retreats for families living with a wide range of disabilities. Worldwide, an estimated 1.3 billion people live with a disability. And according to Thornton, many of those must still fight for access to churches that have deemed the least of these an inconvenience.
The church just doesn't want the uncomfortableness or the disruption of a wheelchair sitting in an aisle or something. They're asked not to come back. A common thread of families is that they're told, you're not welcome here because you're too disruptive.
Since the Americans with Disabilities Act does not cover churches, Thornton estimates only about 5% in the U.S. are fully accessible. This reality fills the need that both organizations seek to fill.
In that wheelchair, we allow for that person, especially those that are believers and have been praying for one, to see in a tangible way that they are loved and not forgotten by Him.
Although the work is far from over, each smile from someone lifted out of the dirt proves a simple chair can be a vehicle for a miracle. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Those
That's
priceless
amazing.
smiles.
Yeah. Have a good night.